Forget the gaslight. Tell me you love her. Is she that good, good? Tell me, is she the one for you? Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Raphael and I am here to review season 15 and the second and final part of the reunion to the Real Housewives whose husband is probably with their cousin of Atlanta. So we start the last part of the reunion right where we left off between Drew and the mistress. Drew was telling her, don't you ever bring up my kids in this conversation again. Let that be the last time that ever comes out of your mouth. Courtney, she didn't care. All she kept telling Drew was, or what? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do, huh? What are you gonna do, huh? You destroyed your kids' lives completely. You completely destroyed them. And I'm like, wow, Courtney, like I said last week, if Drew would have gotten up and lunged at you, she would not have been in the wrong because you're really pushing it right now by talking about her kids and involving them in this conversation that has nothing to do with them. Kenya, she's looking at this like, wait a minute, this might be my last season and my last reunion. I need camera time. Let me try to get in the mix. First of all, Courtney, you're talking about Drew's kids. Stop. Kids are off limits. You're doing way too much right now. Stop. First of all, I'm not talking to you or the peanut gallery. I'm talking to Drew right now, so you mind your business. I'm like, damn, Kenya, defend yourself. You're just gonna take that? What happened to the white envelope, the empty one from last week? You know, get that and throw it at her. Do something. So now Courtney's insinuating that Drew goes to Ty's basketball games for deeper reasoning, and Andy asks Drew, so do you actually go to her basketball games? Drew's looking at him like, I mean, kind of. I mean, I go to, one or two or three or four, or all of them, but I'm there. Yeah, sure. I guess you could say that. I'm like, which one is it, Drew? Yes or no? Which one? But then we find out that she actually met Ty not through the movie that she was filming with Kandi and Todd. Because originally, that's the way I thought that her and Ty crossed paths, that Ty was going to be her love interest in the movie. But when I actually saw the movie, she was nowhere to be found. So I'm not really sure how her and Ty crossed paths originally, but we never really got an answer to that. So Andy moves it over to Sheree and Marlo. So, did you two ever hear about their friendships or anything about Ty? Marlo's like, well, I've heard something about them, but I didn't really want to say too much. Unlike Sheree, she was quick to speak up. She starts bringing out more props. And at this point, production, you have to give everybody a 2-prop minimum moving forward because this is becoming way too much. I mean, there's already a bunch of dirty pillows all over the floor. We have Kenya's empty white envelope from last week, Drew's plum that she threw at Courtney that Andy also took a bite out of. And Sheree's newspaper, as well as these new props that now she's bringing out in part 2. Like, at this point, it's a whole fire hazard. It's a dangerous environment. I could be sitting there, next thing you know, I'm telling Andy, I'll be right back. I'm going to the bathroom, okay, while the cameras are down. I'll be right back. Hold on, give me 1 second. Oh, I tripped. Oh, my ankle. Ow. Oh my God, call an ambulance. I think I tripped over. What did I trip over? I think I tripped over Kenya's white envelope. It's a very dangerous environment, but Sheree, she brings out more props, and now these props are the text messages, screenshots between Drew and Ty. How did they get in front of Sheree's house? I'm not sure. She doesn't know. Apparently, she's saying that she doesn't know who the person is that dropped all of this off, and I'm just wondering why the person couldn't leave Sheree an actual working website for her She by Sheree clothing line instead of this. Like, that would have been so much useful, but she gives the screenshots over to Andy. He's looking at them like, oh wow, these are pretty incriminating. So then Kenya, she's like, oh, can I see them? Can I see them? And I'm surprised that production didn't put a screenshot of whatever they were looking at on the screen so we could at least know what was going on. Drew, she's sitting there as if she has diarrhea. She's just looking at him pass her the text messages like, you sure you don't want to cut the commercial? She was so tempted to snatch up those papers and just rip them up like, oops, I'm sorry. And Kenya, she starts going through them like, let's see, let's read this one. Hey Ty, heart face, LOL. I missed you. I was wondering if you have free basketball tickets to your game this Friday. Bravo still hasn't paid me because that cheap ass Andy. Oh, no, let me not read that for you. Let me read this one. Hey Ty, LOL. Let's hang out soon. I miss you. Andy, these text messages are not incriminating, and I know that she was just trying to get payback for last week for Andy embarrassing her about the white envelope situation. I see you, Kenya. So that didn't really go anywhere, so Andy moved it over to Monetta. So before we go to lunch, and I'm like, wow, not before we go to lunch. You could have kept that to yourself, Andy. I didn't need to know that that's all I am to you guys. Before we go to lunch, ass bitch. But he asked her, before we go, tell me more about your orphanage. Well, yeah, I've actually been running it for a couple of years now. Thank you for asking, Andy. Thank you so much, Monetta, for that information. Thank you, truly. Okay, thank you to Monetta and Courtney for coming out here. You both could leave the stage. We're off to lunch. Monetta, you're way better than me because I didn't fly out all the way to New York to get all glammed up and looking beautiful in my outfit just to come out here for 2 seconds. I'm having my moment. I would have started shit with everybody on the stage like, Kenya, Kenya more hair, Caroline doesn't work. Kandi, my favorite escape group member is Tiny, not you. Sheree, I fuck Marital. Something would have worked, okay? And if this is the last time that we see this cast together, because I'm not sure we're gonna get a reboot for next season, this might be the last time that we see Monetta on this show. And if it is, it's been a nice run. I do like Monetta, so I will miss her, but and as for my reunion look, this time around, last week it was Kenya/Courtney inspired. This time around, it's inspired by Marlo's look at this reunion. So take a good look at the material. Take a good look at it. Yes, the high quality. This is La Archive exclusive. At least La Archive in my head, right? This is not the official La Archive. But yes, wait a minute. Is that a sweat spot? I thought La Archive was supposed to have good quality, Marlo. What is this? Again, La Archive in my head, right? But disregard that. But yes, look at the material. And I see why she would like a flowy dress like this for the reunion. It's very comfortable. If you're feeling a little cold or whatever, because they film for a couple of hours, you could wrap this around your shoulder. If you want to expose somebody and have receipts, you could do it very dramatic. Like, wait a minute, I have the receipts right here. You could use it as a Halloween costume. It's very multifunctional, but I feel the spirit of Marlo coming through me right now as I wear her similar outfit. I feel like, I don't know, I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood to go find an old man and use his credit card for something. So we cut to lunch and we see Sheree going into Marlo's room backstage. She's telling her, I don't get what Kandi's issue is towards me. Why is she coming so hard at me? And I'm like, Sheree, you started with her last week by bringing up the whole allegation with Johnny and the whole restaurant situation, which caused her to react, which caused both of you to get into it. And now you're acting surprised? Marlo, she's like, yeah, I don't get it either why Kandi's going so hard like this. But you know what? We need to get ready. We need to prepare for round 2. Meanwhile, we see Ralph. He's in his own dressing room. He's getting a haircut. Then we see cousin Courtney. She comes over for a quickie, to catch up with him, and she gives him a very interesting hug. She gets close to him like, oh wow, hey Ralph, you look so good in this tuxedo. Look at your arms. I'm gonna give you a good luck kiss, okay? Wait, hold on. I hear the camera crew coming in here. Give me 1 second, Ralph. You look so good right now, cousin. I'm like, what is going on between both of them? Like, this whole thing just looked very off and very interesting and very suspicious. So as they're talking, Ralph notices Allison, Drew's sister, at the door. She walks by, and Courtney proceeds to fight for her cousin cock because she proceeds to go over to the door and close the door in Allison's face. Allison, she was not having that. She slams the door open and she's like, did you just slam this door in my face? Don't do that. Don't slam this door in my face. Who are you? And Courtney was just like, I just did. And Courtney, I'll give her that. Like I said before, a majority may not like her, but at least she is not scared of anybody on this show. Like, she took on Kandi face to face. She took on Kenya, Drew, and now Allison. And she's not flinching. She's not doing anything. She's in her face and she's not backing down. Allison is just like, who are you? Don't slide the door in my face. So then Courtney's just like, can somebody get this bitch? And then Allison was just like, oh, you just called me a bitch. Now you use the word bitch. I thought you didn't use the word bitch. Now you want to use it. Courtney just says, I do now. The whole interaction between them was just so hilarious. But Courtney, you are very lucky that the woman, I'm not sure who she is, came in between both you and Allison at the time that she did. Because I'm pretty sure if this whole interaction would have lasted maybe 10 to 15 seconds longer, Allison was going to reach across and yank you by the hair. And then this whole thing would have gotten physical. So Allison, they close the door on her. Courtney, she goes back to talking to her man about their future wedding, right? But let's talk about the true star of this whole entire scene, the barber, because I'm looking at what he's doing to Ralph's hair, and I'm like, okay, his hair is done. What more can you do? And the more I'm noticing, the more I'm like, he's just standing around being nosy. He's just like this. He's just listening like, get her, Allison, get her. they start talking about the sex positivity within the group. Kenya feels that she put black threesomes on the map. And for a second, I thought she was referring to her, Apollo, and Phaedra and that whole situation. But no, she was talking about the movie Twa that she was in. Then they start talking about her eating ass. You know, she confessed that this season. And everybody's like, oh no, I don't eat ass. I don't eat ass. I don't do all of that. And you know, this is a safe space, right? You know, my channel, we could talk here, but you know, when I first did that, you know, I won't lie to you, I was scared. I was petrified. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I thought, you know what, Raphael, you're a trooper, you can do this. Let's dive in and see what happens. And then, you know, after doing it a couple of times, you start thinking, you know, maybe this doesn't taste bad after all. And that's all I'll say. So then Kenya asks Kandi, what's the freakiest thing you've done? Have you ever done an orgy? Kandi was just like, it depends how many people are in an orgy. I'm just kidding. I've done a foursome before with me included. And I'm like, ooh, all right, Kandi. So then Andy, he moves it over to Sonya. So Sonya, what exactly happened with your miscarriage? And I'm like, wait a minute, Andy. We can't just, you know, go from topic to topic like that. Eating ass and orgies and foursomes and then talking about miscarriages. Like, come on now, let's have a proper transition. But Sonya, she talks about her experience with that. And like I said before, it sounds very, very heartbreaking and very, you know, traumatic. But I'm glad that she's pregnant now. She held off on telling anybody but Marlo. And now we're here. She also says that everybody on the show reached out to her when it happened, except for Kenya. And she feels hurt by that. And Kenya, she denies it. She says, no, I did reach out to you, but regardless, I'm glad that you're pregnant and everything is good now. And I mean, I don't know. Why would Kenya not do that, though? That's just such a heartless thing to do. Even if you do have differences, I would assume that you'll put that to the side for such a traumatic experience. So I don't know. I could take that situation either way. What does everybody else think? Do you think that Kenya truly didn't reach out to her? Then Sonya, this is where I kind of disagreed with you just a little bit, because she goes on to say that she feels that her relationship with Kenya is not genuine, and Kenya only does things when it comes to their friendships for the cameras to make her image look better. An example, the charity event that she hosted. And that right there, Sonya, I mean, that was a terrible example because you called her up last minute because the person that was hosting originally, you know, they got sick, they got the 19, so of course you called Kenya last minute to do the charity. It'll be a whole different situation, and I will agree with you if Kenya was the one to reach out to you and said, hey, can I host so-and-so? But she never did. And she was even slightly annoyed that you did it last minute, the same way that you did last season with her and Kandi, and, you know, surprising them with, oh, by the way, can you do my photo shoot for Mommy Nation? If anything, it makes you look like an opportunist, using Kandi and Kenya for your Mommy Nation business. And anytime that Marlo does something to either one of them that clearly she's in the wrong, you never really want to call her out on it. You just look the other way, or you just kind of play it off like it's nothing. So with that being said, I do think that Kenya does not like you, Sonya. So you might have a point. So then Andy asks Sonya, do you think that you treat your family horribly? And I don't think that. I just feel like Sonya is very inconsiderate of her sister's timing. You know, she wants her sister to drop everything for her and her issues and her life when her sister has a whole life outside of the house. Andy then asks Kandi, do you think it's okay for you to be shady towards your cast members on your YouTube show? Speak on it. Kandi says that she's only returning the same energy that they sent to her. And okay, but the next question kind of threw me off because he says, the next question is from Sheree, not Sheree Whitfield, even though I think this question was from Sheree Whitfield because the question was just a little bit too spot on. He tells Kandi, do you think that you should take a break from this show? You kind of ran your course on this show because you really have nothing else to show. You don't show anything on the show unless it's something about business or something that's not putting you in a bad lighting. And I'm like, now who the hell wrote this question? That was a personal one. And Kandi was just like, I'm not really sure when have I ever backed away from showing my actual life on this show. I have shown so much of myself on this show, so I'm not really sure what Sheree's talking about. And I agree with Kandi because she has always been upfront about her life, and we have always seen it from every single aspect, whether good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. She's never shied away from it. It's not until recently, like the last season or two, where we're just kind of like, okay, Kandi, what more can we really see from your life besides a divorce from Todd? And we don't want that, but that's the only thing that's kind of left to give in the Housewives universe. What more can we possibly see? I mean, we've already seen her open up like 20 restaurants. We've already seen the situation between Mama Joyce and Todd play out 100 different times on this show, and it's never gonna get any better. And unless Kandi is activated or red hair Kandi comes out and she's fighting somebody, people are always gonna look at her like, oh, she's boring, she's boring, she's boring. When Kandi herself is not necessarily boring, it's just we've already seen every single aspect of her life on this show for the last 14 seasons, and we kind of already know how it goes. The trailer drops for the new season. We already know that her and Todd, they're not gonna have enough time for each other. Or, she's busy doing something with the restaurant or a new business or something like that. And I'm happy for her and all her trophies and everything that she's getting, but it kind of becomes predictable. That's why people want a whole new cast, new women, so we could follow their new lives and their storylines. But regardless, I do feel like Kandi is going to be good regardless whether she's on the show next season or in the future. She'll be good either way. And honestly, I feel like there should be a 4, maybe 5 season maximum for every single housewife, for every single city. Because at some point, the housewives, they start noticing, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that to stay on this show, to hold my peach, my diamond, my snowflake, my whatever. And then it kind of becomes like desperation to try to stay on the show as far as possible. And I just feel like maybe we should just recast the show every 4 or 5 seasons just to keep everything fresh. What does everybody else think? Kandi takes a shot at Sheree by saying, well, unlike Sheree, I haven't been asked back multiple times on the show. I've always been here since season 2. Sheree was quick with it though, because she tells Kandi, well, the only reason why they asked me back multiple times, honey, is because you're lackluster. I'm like, damn, Sheree, she really did her homework for this reunion. She is fighting for her peach for next season. But then, at the same time, even though it was a very catchy and very witty response to Kandi, at the same time, I'm also looking at you, Sheree, like, lackluster. Okay, right message, wrong messenger. But then they start talking about Marlo and this whole nephew situation, which I completely forgot about because the whole Ralph and Drew situation kind of overshadowed that. But she starts saying that Kandi should have done more, should have sent her chicken wings and flowers and blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at Marlo like, and how Drew didn't use the word shooting when it came to the Kandi situation. So Drew jumps in it and her and Marlo start going at it. Sonya, for some reason, she jumps in it as well, trying to defend Marlo. Kandi shut her down quickly and was just like, first of all, me and you should not be going back and forth over her. That's me and Marlo's issue. And then that whole situation just continued on and on and on. And I'm like, please let this go. Like, we already dragged this out for 7 episodes this season. We don't need to discuss this anymore moving forward. So then the husband comes out, Ralph, and I'm like, what happened to Todd? He has a movie to promote. He should be talking about that and that whole experience. Ross, he should also be out here talking about the miscarriage and how he felt about that and how he feels about his new pregnancy. Scott Lee, he could talk about this whole manufacturer relationship that he has going on with Marlo, Martel. Anyway, but I guess only Ralph comes out, and surprisingly, I think that this is the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that a husband gets the first chair. If I was Sheree, I would have sat there with my legs closed like, no, you're not sitting here. You have to sit next to me or somewhere else because I'm the first chair. He's sitting in the first chair, and I know that Peter Center Peach Thomas is somewhere at home watching this like, that needed to be me when I was on this show. On top of that, Drew, she's sitting across from him. So now we have husband versus wife. And is it just me or I felt like I shouldn't be watching this? I feel like this was like a private conversation between them. Drew, she's like, I don't get why you're here. I don't get why you're here. Yet she has the props ready to give to him because she brings out a peach. She's like, here, since you want to be a peach holder so badly. Again, I know that Peter Center Peach Thomas is watching this like, I want one of those. I want one of those. Ralph comes onto the stage with this bullshit energy. All of a sudden, now he has this calm demeanor, this whole peace and tranquility. I'm going to talk in a very soft-spoken voice just to try to make Drew look crazy. He comes on, he tells Andy, hello, Andrew. Nice to meet you. Hello, Drew. Lovely wife. I love your dress. You look so beautiful. I love you. Hello, ladies. I'm so glad that we're reunited here in New York City for this reunion. We're going to have a very, very lovely evening. I'm going to take my seat and we could begin. I'm looking at him like, Ralph, please. Who who are you fooling? Like, we have footage of you this whole entire season and last season, and your whole thing with Courtney, like, cut it out. Andy jumps right into it, and he asks Ralph if he believes that Drew is cheating on him for Ty. Ralph, he goes on to say, you know what, Andrew? Sometimes I feel like my answer to that is very complex because I feel like sometimes everything in his life is not always E equals MC squared to the radius of rhombus. And sometimes, to be honest, I just feel like it's very imperpendicular because the Tyrannosaurus Rex is not always to the root of the issue. And I'm like, what? Again, he's just talking in this whole soft-spoken voice. He's talking in circles to try to gaslight Drew and manipulate this whole situation in his favor when we could all see right through it. I'm like, Ralph, be quiet. So then Drew, she goes on to say, well, I actually have text messages right here. She pulls out the phone and she gives it to Andy. Andy, you would think that he was reading some type of document that, you know, in court or something. This girl right here, she has a fat ass. I'm like, please, Andy, what are we doing? And then he starts going through the messages. So this woman is texting you, asking, when am I gonna see that dick again? Sounds like a text message I got a couple of weeks ago, actually. And then Ralph, he goes on to say, no, joggers, you know, catfish, that's all catfish. I never responded to that. I never got those messages. I don't know what you're talking about. And Ralph, first of all, you have the nerve and the audacity to be upset with Drew for pulling a you on you when we've clearly seen that you are doing something shady behind your wife's back, and now you're upset just because she wants to try it out this one time, you know, with somebody else. Now you're upset. Now you can't take it. You can't take the same behavior that you were doing to her on yourself. And now you have to have a divorce. You have to have this. She's a bad person. Yet when you were doing it, it was okay, right? How interesting. So then he tells Drew and everybody else, so the only reason why I actually believe these Ty rumors that it's actually true is because your assistant told me about it. The assistant being the one that she was in the trailer with, you know, a couple of episodes ago, you know, practicing her lines. And I'm like, wow, really, Drew? I mean, you know, Drew, at this point, first of all, you don't need any assistant. You need maybe at most one. I'm not really sure what you need multiple assistants for, but you really need to do something with that because, I mean, you have a bunch of snakes around you, and that's pretty sad. You can't trust anybody. You can't even cheat in peace because somebody's going to open up their mouth. You know, you need to write in the NDA, if you tell my husband that I'm cheating, you're fired and you're not getting your Christmas bonus or your recommendation letter for your next job. Like, it's that simple. But Drew, she doesn't want to accept it. She's like, no, you're lying. You're lying. And, you know, this coming out of his mouth, I could see why she would say that he's lying because he's lied about everything else. So why not this? But Kandi, Kenya, and Sheree all confirmed that, yes, he was spreading around this information to everybody. But Drew was the only one who was blindsided by it. And it was really sad how she told Ralph, you wasted my 30s. Like, imagine saying that to somebody. Like, that's so sad. You know, you're with somebody for like almost 10 years for a good period of time of your life. And you think that they're doing right by your side. But meanwhile, they're with somebody else behind your back. Like, she tells him that he ruined her relationship with her mom, her sister, and everybody else around her, basically. And that's typically how it goes in toxic marriages. You know, they want to isolate you by yourself. So that way, when they're doing X, Y, and Z behind your back, you're trying to reach out to somebody for help. Like, wait a minute, maybe I should call so-and-so to see what they think about this. You can't because you cut off all those relationships and you're only left with Ralph. He knew what he was doing when he cut off Allison because Allison, she was onto his bullshit from the very start. And he probably thought, I need to get rid of her from the picture because, you know, Drew is eventually going to open up her eyes much sooner. And here we are. So Andy asked Ralph if he went to Vegas to try out for the Chocolate City show. He was quick to deny it and say, no, I was never there in Vegas. I never did that. I don't know what you're talking about. Until Drew exposed them and said, that's not what they told Kandi because Kandi called the producer of the show, which shout out to Kandi, you know, Miss Worldwide. How does she know the producer? But Kandi called, and we saw in the confessional, in the flashback, that yes, they confirmed to Kandi that yes, he was here, he was trying out, he was shaking his dick, and he was here. So then Ralph, all of a sudden, now he wants to change his tune. And he's like, oh, you're talking about the Chocolate City show, that show. Yeah, I was there. I'm like, what a liar. Like, okay, Ralph, whatever. And he has a ton of excuses for that. Drew, she's getting overwhelmed. And at this point, if I was in her shoes, I would kind of feel like, it's everybody versus me at this reunion because, I don't know who to trust. So she gets up and she's like, you're a big liar. You're a gaslighter. You're a this, down, the third. She walks away crying. She goes in the back and we see her sister, Allison, and Monetta. I'm like, Monetta, we already said goodbye to you. Why are you still trying to get camera time? She's just back there in every shot like, wait a minute, is that Drew crying? Let me go over there. Hold on, let me put on my corset again. Let me get in front of the camera. It's okay, babe. It's okay. Everything is going to be okay. Get my good angle over here. Yeah, she's crying over here. Everything's going to be okay. I'm like, you know what, Monetta? I'm not even upset with you. It's okay. Get your camera time. Allison, on the other hand, I'm not sure if anybody caught what she told her sister. She said, why didn't you, tell Ralph and Andy and everybody else about the PI, about the private investigator? And I'm like, wait a minute. There's much more to this whole story. But then Drew, she wants to say, oh, well, I don't want to put that out there. I don't want to put that out on TV. That's too much. And you see, that's what's wrong with the Real Housewives nowadays. You don't want to put out your real lives out there. You always want to cover certain things up. And then when we finally find out about it later on, it becomes this whole scandal. So why not be upfront about it right now, Drew? Like, you probably have all this ammo, but I guess she doesn't want it to get too sloppy, I guess, because once she opens up that door, there's no going back. So then we're left with everybody else on the stage. Kenya. This was interesting because she takes on Ralph. She tells Ralph, Ralph, it's really inconsiderate how you're not there for your wife at all. She tells you, oh, I don't like when so-and-so calls me a bitch, and you don't care about it. You dismiss her feelings all the time, and that's not cool. You're similar to Mark. I'm like, okay, Kenya, you had me until you mentioned him again for the 100th time. But this time she actually mentioned him with a purpose because she goes on to say, you're very similar to my ex-husband, Mark. He did the same thing to me, and I could see that too. I could see the similarities because Mark was complete trash to Kenya. And, at this point, do we have any good husbands left on the Real Housewives? Like, these shitty men just come on here and just expose themselves every other season. But Ralph throws it back at Kenya and he says, so wait a minute, how long were you married for? And I'm like, ooh. I'm like, wait a minute, don't get disrespectful. But Kenya, she says, I was only married for 2. But what? So you're going to disregard my feelings and everything that I went through just because you've been married to Drew for almost 10 years? That doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, gaslight is gaslight, whether it's been 2 minutes, 5 seconds, a week, a month, a year, whatever, it's still a thing, right? But he doesn't want to accept that. So, and shout out to Kenya for being the only woman to defend Drew in this situation. I love that even though they had their differences here and there, it wasn't as serious to cloud her judgment and to stay silent in the situation playing out in front of her. Unlike RHOA, Marlo, Sonya, especially Kandi. Kandi was never going to say anything in Drew's honor because the only thing that she cares about is trying to prove that she kissed LaToya. So Drew comes back out and Andy tells her, so I know that you have a song that you want to perform for Ralph right now. And I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean perform? Like, what's going on? And Drew, she's like, yeah, it's my new single. It's going to be on Spotify and iTunes. I want to perform right now for Ralph. So her and Andy, they switch spots. Now he's the first chair next to Kenya. She's right in the middle. She grabs the microphone. She looks at Ralph and she's like, first of all, let me say, you can't accuse me of doing all the things that you are guilty of. If that's the case, I should go have my fun, do all the things you say I do. Boy, I can't continue taking this from you. I might as well have cheated on you for time. As much as you accuse me of lying, I might as well have gone to her basketball games. And Ralph is just sitting there like, as she's singing to him face to face. I'm like, what did I just witness watching? Like, what is really going on? But, I wish that Courtney would have been brought out at the same time as Ralph. It would have been real interesting to see, the whole dynamic between all three of them. But, Andy, he tells Ralph, what did you think about this whole song, this performance? I love the song. My wife sounds so beautiful. I'm like, Ralph, please get out. So then Ralph, he goes away, that's that. And we're left with everyone doing a toast. And Sheree, of all people, now she's Mother Teresa, she's giving a speech. She's like, okay, so let's toast to sisterhood. Let's toast to peace within this group. I'm like, peace? Were you not the same one that brought out all these receipts at this reunion? Were you and Kandi just not tearing each other apart not too long ago? And now you want to talk about peace and sisterhood? Like, Sheree, okay, whatever. So then, they toast to that. And that officially concludes the reunion and the official ending to the Real Housewives of Atlanta season 15. I mean, whew, what a ride it was. I mean... I'm not really sure, like I said, if this is the very last time that we see this entire cast together for the very last time, because I'm not sure what they're going to do for season 16 or moving forward. We might not see any of them. We might see one or two of them back. I'm not sure, but... what does everybody else think? Now that it's officially over, what does everybody else think? Like, do we need a reboot? Do we only need to see one housewife, two housewives return? If they had to return with somebody, I guess I would say Drew and maybe Courtney, because I feel like there is a lot of things unsaid between her, between each other, and maybe Ralph. I'm not sure, but I guess only time will tell. But let me know what you all thought about this whole entire reunion, this entire season. Again, thank you all so much for supporting my channel, for watching my reviews, and sticking with me this entire season and this whole divorce. Let me know what you all thought about this whole reunion down in the comments. Bye, everybody. Mwah.